What if it was all just an illusion? Behind the cameras, this polygamous family is keeping a lot more secrets than anyone ever imagined. While viewers have been on the edge of their seats, wrapped up in the drama between Cody and his wives, far deeper, darker wars have been raging behind the scenes. Wars that no one alerted us to. It's not solely jealousy. It's not simply love triangles. It's about betrayal, manipulation, and the insidious emotional cost this family continues to pay. Season after season, we observe the Browns crying out to maintain it all together. But what we do not get is the suffering, the warfare emotionally, and the destroyed relationships that possibly might never even heal. The real story, the actual drama, goes far beyond what's edited for TV. So what's hiding in plain sight? What happens when the wives finally drop the act and reveal their raw, most painful truths? Stick around, because we're diving deep into what the Browns have been keeping from the world. Brace yourself for some shocking revelations that have been brewing for years. Hello friends, welcome back, I'm Emma. And welcome back to my channel, TLC Chapter. If you're a loyal Sister Wives enthusiast, you're in the right place. My channel is dedicated to breaking down the drama, revealing the hidden stories, and providing you with a more intimate glimpse into what the Browns are actually dealing with, beyond the sanitized version on television. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're always in the know. And if you're liking these deep dives, give this video a thumbs up. I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know how you feel about the latest turn. Sister Wives has been one wild ride from the start, hasn't it? Seeing the Browns struggle to balance their unusual family dynamics has put us on an emotional roller coaster, from frustration and heartbreak to occasional moments of success and happiness. This is reality TV, but it's a raw portal into the inner working of the layers of love, loyalty, and inner power struggles that make up this family. But under all the surface drama, there's an even greater underlying story, one of independence, betrayal, and life-altering choices each wife makes. Consider Meri's catfishing scandal, for example. She was duped by a man posing as someone who cared about her, and that instant felt like the start of greater self-dispelling. You saw Meri, the formerly strong, stoic wife, struggling to hold on to her sense of self-worth as her marriage with Cody began to break down. And that was only the beginning. And then there's Christine. Her path has been tragic. From feeling overlooked to boldly deciding to leave Cody behind, she's taught us what it takes to value your own happiness when a family arrangement no longer works for you. Her strength and her pain have been louder than words. And of course, there's Robyn, always stuck in the middle. Her entry into the Brown family brought a new chapter, but also fanned flames that had been simmering for a long time. As Cody's preferred wife, Robyn's presence only exacerbated the cracks. Each of these women's tales builds another chapter into the saga. And now, with the latest season, the stakes have never been higher. Relationships are crumbling, emotions are running high, and the air is thick with unresolved tension. What's currently happening isn't all about Cody's decisions. It's about a family who must confront the truth about their lives, their past choices, and the emotional toll of those sacrifices. Will the Browns ever find healing? How will the wives continue rewriting their futures? We're about to break it all down, so buckle up. This is where things get real. Meri's story, in particular, stands out as one of the most emotionally complex and heartbreaking arcs in the entire Sister Wives narrative. Over the years, we've watched her. She attempted, and continued to attempt, to make her relationship succeed, not only with Cody, but with the other wives as well. But what's most heartbreaking is the emotional toll of that effort. On the outside, Meri seemed to be the glue holding it all together. Serene, collected, dedicated to her family. But when we started actually looking into her life, what we were met with was a woman crumbling piece by piece, drowning in an ocean of isolation, deception, and heartache. Let's start with the catfishing scandal, a moment that rocked Meri to the very foundation of her being. She had been desperate for connection, for love, for someone to love her and care for her, things that had been absent from her relationship with Cody for what felt like an eternity. In her vulnerability, a manipulator saw an opening and took advantage. Meri believed she had discovered someone who genuinely understood her, someone who could provide her with the emotional intimacy she so desired. But it was all lies. When it came out, and she knew that she had been a victim of a catfish, it wasn't just the individual who initiated the scam that betrayed her. It felt like betrayal on all sides. But her emotional distance hadn't started there. It had been a gradual process, a painful wake-up call to the reality that her emotional needs were never actually fulfilled in the family. Her marriage to Cody continued to erode, and she and the other wives began to fray as well. There was always tension between Meri and the others, but particularly with Robyn. As complicated as the family dynamics had already been, Robyn's arrival as Cody's obvious favorite appeared to isolate Meri even more. Robyn's arrival drove Meri further into the background, making her feel ignored, unheard, and emotionally unseen. In her more introspective moments, Meri has pondered at length about her place in the family. It's been honestly agonizing to see her wonder if she'd been clinging to something that was never going to be what she wanted it to be. She was the first wife, but as time went on, that designation seemed to mean less and less. In the beginning, she seemed to have the most control in the relationship. But as Cody's focus turned toward the newer wives, especially Robyn, Meri felt shoved aside. And the more she struggled to establish a bond with Cody, the further away and the more broken everything grew, as if she'd become a ghost among her own family. A fading presence people scarcely noticed. The dawning awareness, it landed like a weight on her heart. Meri's ride has been an emotional roller coaster and inner turmoil. Her efforts at fixing what had gone wrong sounded too often like pleas to be noticed, to be loved. But all they seemed to do was cast an even brighter light on just how much she's been forgotten. Seeing her struggle to find her place, to cling to a family that it seems has gotten on without her. That's been one of the most painful aspects of sister wives. The loneliness, the perpetual fight just to feel like she counts. It's enough to break anyone's spirit. Now, Meri is left to grapple with who she is in a family that no longer looks at her the same way they used to. And in so many ways, that internal struggle is the crux of her story. Finding a way to move on when the past has left her so emotionally broken. It's heart-wrenching to watch. Her understanding of how much she struggled to earn her position within this family and seeing how little she's gotten back. It's heartbreaking. We've seen her struggle to get back to who she was. But with all she has gone through, you can't help but wonder, has she been fighting for the right thing all these years? Will she ever discover that emotional connection and sense of completion she's been seeking? That remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Meri's emotional journey is a long way from being over. And then there's Christine, whose transformation over the course of Sister Wives has been nothing short of compelling. She stood faithfully by Cody's side for years, embracing her place in the family and giving herself over to being a good wife and mother. But beneath the surface, there was always something more. There was always something within Christine quietly telling her that she was owed better. The ongoing battle of trying to juggle her own needs with being part of a plural marriage bore down on her. And it became painfully clear over time, the cracks in her relationship with Cody were just too deep to repair. Christine's awakening to the knowledge that she was deserving of more didn't come all at once. It was a difficult, plodding process, one where she was coming to see how much of herself she'd been sacrificing on behalf of a family that, 9 times out of 10, seemed more curse than blessing. She had assured herself for years that Cody's love, divided between his wives and the rules of their polygamous family, would suffice. But with each passing year, reality became too evident to deny. She was trapped in a life where her emotional needs were constantly sidelined. It wasn't just Cody's divided attention that hurt. It was the lack of true intimacy, the absence of emotional connection, and the recurring feeling of being invisible that took its toll. The final straw, as viewers saw, came when Christine accepted that no matter how much she gave, her needs would never truly be met. She poured her heart out to the marriage, her love, patience, time, but Cody was just not showing up for her on an emotional level. She was not merely a wife, she was a mother, a partner, a woman who should have been loved and respected in return. And when that never materialized, she was confronted with the harsh reality. Things weren't going to get any better. Christine's increasing frustration was evident to anyone who was paying attention. There were the silent moments of anger, the emotional space, and all the little things that told her she was no longer content. And then there was the moment she said, "Enough." She decided to make a life-changing choice and leave Cody and forge a future for herself. It wasn't a simple decision. It wasn't leaving Cody. It was leaving behind a life she had created, invested in, and given so much of herself for. The emotional burden of that choice was heavy, full of sorrow and doubt. But what made her decision so strong was the sense of control she regained. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Christine prioritized herself. She had devoted years to serving others, her children, her husband, even the other wives, and lost herself in the process. But at that turning point, when she decided to go, she was no longer willing to give up her own happiness for anyone else. She chose herself, and that was unbelievably empowering. Though it cost her her marriage and her place in the family, it was an act of liberation that defined her. Her leaving shocked the whole family. Cody naturally was confused and hurt. He had never really thought Christine would leave him. He was still holding on to hope that they could somehow mend the cracks. But the reality was, he had never really understood Christine's pain, until it was much too late. The other wives responded differently. Some quietly supported, some appeared lost or confused about what her departure meant. But for Christine, it was about more than breaking up a marriage. It was about taking back her autonomy, deciding on happiness, and no longer being defined by a failed relationship. Sister Wives fans reacted with mixed feelings. Most were profoundly sympathetic, regarding her departure as a well-overdue exercise of self-care and self-respect. Others, however, were less complimentary, wondering if she had done the right thing. Whether or not it was the right decision, Christine's exit says a lot about how Sister Wives has addressed the emotional complexities of polygamy and the dynamics of the Brown family. The fans saw her transformation as an icon of personal growth. A woman who, after years of putting aside her needs, at last stepped up to ask for the respect and love she always deserved. Quitting Cody and the family wasn't without emotional expense. There were tears, moments of uncertainty, and a crushing feeling of loss at times. But the most remarkable thing about Christine's tale was that she came to realize that she found empowerment in her choice. This wasn't about blame or bitterness. It was about allowing herself to leave behind something that no longer served her own good. By making that decision, she demonstrated to herself, and everyone viewing, to herself, that sometimes the strongest thing we can do is release what's been weighing us down. Christine's departure was a significant moment of transformation, not only for her, but also for viewers who had seen her from the beginning. It was the moment that she stopped seeking other people's validation and instead started giving it to herself. Her decision was all about regaining her dignity, her happiness, and her independence. And though it was accompanied by its share of agony, ultimately, it was the strongest choice she could have made. In the meantime, Cody Brown's actions throughout Sister Wives have raised serious questions and fueled endless controversy among viewers. The image he once cultivated, that of a loving, committed husband and father, has gradually disintegrated. What's been uncovered is a man whose craving for control and emotional manipulation has caused a great deal of harm to his family. At the center of the dysfunction in the Brown family is Cody's foundational craving for control. From deciding how and when his wives can spend time with him, to making big family decisions without discussing them with them. Cody's style of leadership is frequently on the cusp of being authoritarian. It's not that he wishes to be the head of the family so much as be the sole authority, the decider of all things. This top-down mentality has created a poisonous, high-stress atmosphere in which the wives are more likely to feel like subordinates than equals. One of the most exasperating aspects of Cody's behavior is the way he contradicts himself. He often blames the wives for the disunity of the family, as if the deteriorating relationships are all their fault. But time and again, he's the one undermining any attempt at harmony. Cody insists on loyalty, respect, and harmony, but seldom provides those in return. His obvious favoritism only makes the situation worse. Whether it's his clear favoritism of Robyn or his emotional detachment with the other wives. His differential investment has substantially broken down trust in the family. Consider the case of him and Meri. For several years, it's been evident in pain that Cody ceased to put first her emotional care. The catfishing debacle, which almost destroyed Meri emotionally, is a clear indication of Cody's inability to have her back when she most needed him. Instead of being supportive or sympathetic in her darkest hours, he distanced himself further, forcing Meri to endure the heartache alone. His non-presence served only to intensify her pain. His affair with Christine has exposed all of the same flaws. Christine has also talked candidly about the emotional emptiness she experienced, particularly in the later stages of their marriage. Cody's failure to recognize her pain, both as a wife and mother of their children, demonstrated just how disconnected he had grown. Cody's failure to understand the emotional requirements of his wives has been a persistent problem. Instead of listening to Christine's issues seriously, he tended to brush them aside, urging her to deny her feelings so as not to destabilize the family. That emotional neglect eventually took its impact, boosting Christine's increasing anger and, ultimately, causing her to decide to leave. It wasn't until it was much too late that Cody finally appeared to grasp the magnitude of Christine's hurt. More proof of just how disconnected he had become from her emotional life. Meanwhile, Robyn seemed to get the entirety of Cody's focus, a dynamic which only served to heighten the perception of favoritism. Cody has never hesitated to voice his deep affection for Robyn, and sure enough, there's no question that the two have a connection. However, his blatant favoritism has quietly, and at times not so quietly, created tension between the wives. This blatant favoritism has bred resentment, particularly on the part of Meri and Janelle, both of whom have complained bitterly about being ignored. Cody's tendency to brush aside the other wives' needs in favor of Robyn has only widened the rift, and with every season, that chasm grows larger. But Cody's actions haven't just been about emotional abandonment, it's also shown a persistent pattern of manipulation. He tends to spin situations so that he appears to be the victim, quietly shifting the blame to the wives for the dysfunction of the family. He positions himself as the one who is attempting to keep everything together, blaming the wives for being resistant or unhelpful. This strategy enables him to avoid blame for the emotional distances he's created. By ignoring the unique needs of each wife, Cody helps to create a poisonous family dynamic, one in which the women are less partner and more hindrance to his ideal of a perfect family. In several of the show's most insightful moments, Cody's conflict resolution style has been anything but healthy. Rather than confront honestly or empathetically, he closes down emotionally or lets loose with passive-aggressive posturing. This makes the wives feel unheard, dismissed, and drained of energy, driving each one away progressively. The irony in his actions is maddening. He desires total authority over the family life, but is without emotional perceptiveness to lead with mutual respect or genuine comprehension. Instead of being the strong, loving matriarch he says he is, Cody tends to appear self-absorbed, controlling, and emotionally distant. The repercussions have been catastrophic. The emotional aftermath has left Meri, Christine, and Janelle, each in her own particular way, trying to come to terms with their unfulfilled needs and emotional loneliness. Cody's failure to recognize and prioritize their own well-being has been a major contributor to the breakdown of these relationships. The cost to the wives has been real. And worse still to observe is Cody persisting in playing the victim, even as his behaviors hurt. At its foundation, this fragmentation in the Brown family is a result of two things: Cody's need to control and his inability to offer emotional support. His manipulations and contradictions have done permanent damage, fostering a poisonous environment where love and respect are distant memories. Ultimately, this continued tension isn't just making things difficult for their relationships with Cody, it's started to devour the very fabric of the family itself. Perhaps the most obvious divide has long been between Meri and Christine. Their own relationship, tense from the beginning, has continued to chill over the years. Meri, being Cody's first wife, has too often felt lonely and left out, particularly following the emotional wreckage of her catfishing controversy, which Cody never genuinely confronted. Christine, on the other hand, has been much more vocal in speaking out against her dissatisfaction, specifically about how Cody treated her and emotionally neglected her. While both women struggled and cried through their individual issues in the marriage, the rift between them grew. The sisterly affection that once was turned into passive-aggressive behavior, coded hostility, and a poisonous tension that existed every time they were in the same space. Christine's leaving the family only exacerbated this schism. Her walkout wasn't merely an individual decision, it represented a symbolic failure of the perfected vision of plural marriage that the Browns had worked so diligently to sustain. While Cody was likely devastated, some of the other wives, openly or secretly, appeared almost relieved. Janelle, in general, found herself trapped in a tricky situation. Her devotion to Cody warred with her understanding of Christine's decision. She was the habitual peacemaker, seeking to hold on to her position with Cody even as she tiptoed across the increasingly contentious divide between wives. Her delicate balancing act tightened as she found herself inevitably being drawn toward choosing sides in a family that was visibly disintegrating. Jealousy, always a natural but uncomfortable element of plural marriage, has only intensified over the years. What may have once been manageable has now become a force of division. Cody's favoritism of Robyn has done nothing but fuel the flames of resentment. The fact that he so obviously favors Robyn, both emotionally and logistically, has become a deep well of frustration for Meri, Christine, and Janelle. That resentment is seldom spoken aloud, but it hangs in every interaction. All of the wives feel left out in some way. Whether it's Cody spending more time with Robyn or the feeling that her children are getting special treatment, the imbalance in the family dynamic is impossible to ignore. But the frustration isn't directed solely at Cody. It's also been internalized and redirected at one another. Attempting to navigate a family where one wife is always favored has created tension that has spilled over into their marriages. It's taken a serious emotional toll on each of them. Meri, who has been steadfastly devoted to Cody even when he wasn't, has increasingly found herself isolated, not just from him, but from the other wives too. Her attempts to repair the marriage have been largely unsupported, and she is left alone in her inner battle. Christine's departure, by contrast, was a painful but intense assertion of self-worth. She saw that the emotional neglect she'd been experiencing for years wasn't sustainable, and that Cody wasn't capable of providing her with what she required anymore. Her choice, while freeing, was accompanied by heartbreak. It was the culmination of years spent attempting to maintain the facade of a healthy family when, in reality, the bond had already been severed. And Janelle? She's stuck between two worlds, encouraging Christine's move, but attempting to. Janelle, as much a part of the Brown family as anyone, consistently has her emotional needs and efforts overshadowed by Cody's increasingly singular attention to Robyn. Her passive frustration has grown more evident over the years, and her inner conflict, struggling to balance her affection for Cody with the poisonous reality of their current family situation, is heart-wrenching. In recent seasons, Janelle has begun to show more discontent, being clear that she's no longer satisfied with simply keeping things the way they are. But she's also mindful, careful not to talk too freely, particularly when it comes to the sensitive and strained relationships with the other wives. What was initially presented as a plural marriage predicated on shared trust, respect, and cooperation has become much more contentious. Each wife is struggling to gain traction in a family system that no longer feels like what they enlisted in. The constant fight to be heard, recognized, and respected by both Cody and each other has resulted in deep-seated emotional scars. Those wounds haven't only been given to them by Cody's actions, Tensions have been escalated by the silent competition among the wives as well. What were once mutual struggles have gradually transformed into an intricate web of pain, jealousy, and bitterness. And the sisterhood that they once sought to preserve has broken down to something much worse. Instead of being united, the wives too frequently seem trapped in a war over Cody's attention and emotional investment. The insecurity and competition that now characterize their relationships render it impossible to overlook just how far the original dream of sister wives has come undone. All that's left is a fractured home in which each woman isn't simply competing for her husband's affections, but also for her own sense of identity and value in a relationship that constantly disempowers it. It's been painful to observe this emotional deterioration. The harm goes deeper than bruised egos. It harms the very fabric of the family, and we can't discount the effect it's had on the Brown children, particularly now that they've grown up and started to form their own opinions about the life they were brought up in. Throughout Sister Wives, we've seen